Hello everyone, in this video we are going to demonstrate how to use AI as a coding assistant, and in this particular video we are going to make use of Grok XAI to demonstrate how we can be able to bootstrap our code from scratch. So can AI actually build a full backend system? Let's find out.
Cause I don't feel alive and there's nothing that makes me happy. Oh, hold my beer for a minute.
So over here, visit x.ai at the top over here, and then you will see this beautiful looking website of Grok. So let's click on try now. But before we continue, you need to install some couple of software on your system, and the number one software that you need to include before you continue on this tutorial is Node.js. So visit Node.js or go to Node.js website and then click on download. If you're on Mac or Windows or any other operating system, you will see the installation instruction, so follow it. And another software that is required for us over here is PostgreSQL for database. So I am using Mac over here, but you might be using Windows. So go ahead and then install PostgreSQL on your Mac as well. So, and another software that I'll be using is Postman. So Postman is used for testing our software. So Postman download Postman, visit their website also, and install it on your system. We're going to be using it to actually test our application. So these are the few software requirements that we need. So head over to Grok over here. So you are going to give a description to Grok to actually bootstrap or generate a backend code for us. All right, over here we're going to give Grok 3 a prompt for it to actually create our backend code for us. So let's type this. Let's say create a full CRUD user Node.js Prisma PostgreSQL project using TypeScript. So you can specify the language. So I'm using TypeScript in this one over here. So let's see what it will come up with.
Hey kid, don't ever let them get inside your head. They'll tell you what to do in life instead of everything you know that you could get.
So you can see that our project is up to date over here and it is created by AI. So what we are going to do is we are going to actually copy this code to our VS Code and try to run this project and see. Alright, so based on the instruction over here provided by Grok 3 AI, we are to type this command. So go ahead and open a prompt on your system, and over here just open a terminal. I'm going to zoom it, so type this command, or we can simply copy this command over here, so and take it back, paste it. So it is saying that we should mkd, means make a new directory. So let's hit enter. So you can see it has made a new directory. So cd, that is change directory, to navigate into the new directory that has just been created. Hit enter and go back and npm init y to initialize our npm package manager. And then let's go ahead and open it in VS Code and see. So by typing code in your command line over here, or you can open it in any code editor of your choice. So, and over here you can see we have a package or JSON file over here. Let's get back over here. It has given us another command to install some packages. So let's go ahead and then check it out. So open another terminal over here, still within the project, and paste this command. After we hit enter, let's go ahead. The next command over here is to install Node.js as a dev dependency. So let's wait for this one to finish installing. Let's install this one as a dev dependency. The next step for us over here is to initialize our TypeScript. So let's go back again, paste it. And the next step over here is to initialize our Prisma. So let's copy this command as well. So if we go back over here, when we run the command npx tsc dash init, it actually initializes a type tsconfig.json file for us over here, so you can see it. We are going to also initialize our Prisma. So by typing this command npx prisma init, so you can see over here, when we come over here, it has created this .env file and drop this data fig environment variable over here, and it has also created a directory over here with a schema.prisma. So over here is where we're going to define to model our database. So let's go back to this code over here. So it says if we run the following command, this is how our package.json should be looking. So let's copy this over here in the script command and take it back. Open package.json over here and replace everything inside the script. So once we have this, and once we have this, let's also create another file, another directory known as src. So src will be our source directory where we drop our files. Now the next step over here is to ensure that we configure our tsconfig.json file. So you can see our target over here is ES 2016. So let's copy that and open our tsconfig.json file. So let's search for target. You can see ES 2016, and the module should be what? Common.js. So if we go back over here and search, the module is Common.js, and the root directory should be source. That is where we want our and TypeScript to search for our source file. So over here we want it to go inside and look inside this directory known as source. Over here, the next step for us is the outdir. When we compile the project in TypeScript, where do we want it to be? So we can search for outdir, that is the out directory where it's going to drop our files. So we call it dist. So if the dist directory doesn't exist, we create it automatically. So, and the next step over here is es module interrupt true, and it is true. False case files true, and over here too is true. Strict true, and over here too is strict true, and this one over here is skip lead back, so and it's true. So everything is looking fantastic. So, and you can see our env config for connecting our database over here and the port number. So let's copy this and open our env and then define our port number as well. But in this case now we already have this over here. So, and all we need to do is actually configure this our database URL so that it will point to our database that is installed locally on our system. So if you are installing, remember at the beginning of the project I told you to install PostgreSQL. So when you are installing PostgreSQL on your system, you need to actually configure a username and a password. This is a database, this is a username. So my username too is Postgres, and my password is actually 123456778. So, and here you can change the name of your DB. So let's call this one maybe user crowd. So you can see user crowd, and yes, everything is all right for this configuration. So this will enable our Prisma over here to connect to our locally installed database. You can see this database URL over here, an environment name that is being picked by Prisma over here. So the next step for us now, let's go back to our CRUD app over here, is to model our database in the Prisma, in the schema.prisma file. So let's copy this model that is already provided for us over here and take it to open this inside Prisma directory schema.prisma. So we drop this model config over here. So, but we don't actually want this to be in numbers. We don't want the ID to be in numbers. So I'm going to change this into string. This is Prisma model. So, and then it has its own syntax that you need to follow. You can check out the Prisma documentation. So over here, I want to use CUID. So, and then instead of what ID, so we will save it. After we have done all these things, we actually need to create types inside the source so that we can have user types. So let's go ahead and do that. So let's copy this, and then inside the source directory, let's create a file known as what types. So inside the types, let's create a file known as index.ts file and paste this. But I don't actually want to create user interface because we are going to be getting that from Prisma. So we only keep these two interfaces over here. So and yeah. So over here again, the next step for us is to create a user service. You can see the file over here, but before we actually create the user service, we need to run a command to actually migrate this schema to our database. So in order to do that, if we come down to at the bottom, before we copy the files at the top, if you come down to the bottom over here, let's copy this and code over here and take it to open our terminal over here and run this command. We are running the command npx prisma migrate dev -- name in it. So it's actually our first migration file. So it's going to actually sync this and our model that we have defined over here, our user model, to the database, and the database that we have actually defined in our environment variable over here. Remember, we call the name of the database one user crowd, and here is actually our user name, database username and what password. So let's run the command and see. So hit enter. So you can see the command is running and everything is successful. Now if we actually go back to our Prisma directory over here, you can see migration files, and if you open it over here, you can see our migration. You can see it has created and what SQL syntax over here for migrating this our model to our database. And in Prisma, if you want to actually see your database, it has a command that you need to run. You need to run this command npx prisma studio. So run this command npx prisma studio, so it will open this interface in the browser for us. So you can see the user model that is generated over here. You can manually add code to the database and then create a new user. So as simple as this. But let's go ahead and continue with our CRUD application. So now let's go back over here. The next step for us is to create a directory inside the source known as services and user.service. So let's copy this and take it to our services, to our source directory, and create a directory known as what? Services. So and then inside the services directory, let's create another directory known as user.ts. So we can call it users.ts file. So let's go back to the browser and copy the whole of this. So but you can see over here that let's you can see over here that we have a Prisma client over here. So imagine if you have many services, do we have to create many instances of this Prisma connection to our database? No. So let's refactor this and take it out. So inside the source directory, let's create another file known as what? Another directory known as what? DB. So and inside the DB, let's copy this, cut it out of there, create another file inside the DB directory known as index.ts file, and paste this code. And let's go back to this our users.service and cut this one as well and take it back over here. So but we export it to be used in other files. So we actually refactor this our database connection so that we can be able to use just a single instance across our application. So let's take it back over here, and over here we rather import it. So we rather import it from our DB file. So you can see this one. Remember, we changed the ID in our model, our Prisma model, to what? To a string. It is no longer an int. That is the reason why this thing is throwing an error over here. So anywhere we have this number, let's actually change it to what? To string. The ID is actually string type, so that the error will go away. So we have this our services, our user services file over here. The next step for us is to check our AI code, and it says we should create another directory known as what? Controllers. So let's open this. Inside our source directory, again, let's create another directory known as controllers, and inside the controllers, let's create a file known as users.ts file and go and copy the code. So let's copy this code over here and paste it over here. So, and we remove this from services. We have actually users. So you can see the file over there, and over here, remember I told you that the ID is no longer gonna be an integer. It's actually gonna be a string. So we remove the pass int, and over here too, we don't want this pass int of converting it to an integer. We actually want it to be a string, so we leave it the way it is. So these are our services and our controller files. So what is the next step based on our AI? The next step is actually to create what? To create user route. So let's copy this file again and take it back over here, still within source directory. Let's create another directory known as route. So inside the route, we are going to create a file known as users.ts file. So I guess inside the controller too, we created users here, to users. So let's copy this code over here and paste it. So remember, it is coming from users, and you can see. Alright, so you can see over here that there is an error within our code over here. So when we go back to our package.json file over here and we search under, when we search this over here, you can see actually this is supposed to be our dev dependency. So let's actually move this out down to our dev dependency. So let's drop it down here. You can see if we run the command npm install again, let's install the packages. So over here we say npm install. So npm install, and when we install the packages over here, you can see that this is, we are using Express 4.21.2, but over here we are using types of Express 5.0, 5.0.0. So let's go ahead and make a quick search and search for npm or types express. So npm types express has a version for Express for Express 4. So but this one is giving us types for Express 5. So let's go ahead, go under, once you visit this npm over here, Express npm homepage, go ahead and search for versions, and in the versions we want to actually use a lower version than 5. So click on this and then click on this version, and you will see this command over here. Copy this command and take it back to our code, open your terminal and paste it, then hit enter so that it can lower our Express types version. So you can see it has changed to 4.17.21. So let's go back to our route over here. So you can see the error is gone. So if you are facing this issue, go ahead and correct this within your package.json file. Lower the version of your Express types so that it won't use version 5.0.0 when you're using Express version 4. So let's save everything. Go back to our code over here, to our CRUD code, and the next step for us is to create a server.ts file. So let's copy this within the source directory. Let's close this one and close this one. Within the source directory, we have to create another file known as server.ts file. So let's go back over here and copy this code and then paste it over here. So you can see it is actually calling route slash what user route, but remember we know that the file name is what users. So you can see we have our own API over here, and it says when we actually make a request to /API/users, it should call our user route. So within our user route, we have defined all our route entry, so handling all our word requests. So we have this. Let's go back to our Grok AI and see. So it says we should update our .env file with the appropriate Postgres credentials, and then run our database migration. Remember, we have already done this, so if you have not done it again, you can copy this code and go and do it. And the next step for us is to run this command npm run dev to actually run our project. But here I'm going to change this port to 6000. I actually don't want it to be port 3000 because I've been using that a lot for my React.js application, and I'm going to change this one over here to 6000. So, and we already configured our database schema and it's pointing to our PostgreSQL. So let's go ahead and check our package.json file. So package.json file, you can see we have configured some dev dependencies over here. We have configured some script commands over here. So you can see we have our start command. We also have our dev and command over here. So let's go ahead and run this command over here and see how our project will look like. So within our terminal, once you're navigated inside this our user CRUD app, run this command or paste the command that we copied over here, npm run dev, and hit enter. If we run this command, you can see our project has started on port 6000 over here. So let's go ahead and add another route over here. Anyone that visits this our default route, we actually want to show what welcome to what to Grok AI CRUD App. So this is what we actually want to show. So the next step for us is to actually test our API by opening a Postman. Remember at the beginning of this project I asked you to install what Postman. So go ahead and open the app known as what Postman. So over here, once you open our Postman app, let's go ahead and add and create another folder for collection for our app. So let's call it blank and let's call it Grok and 3 AI CRUD app. So we have our collection over here. Let's go ahead and add a request. So a simple request is to test the server. So we can say http. So we can say http :/localhost :6000. So let's make a request to it and see. So you can see when we make a request to it, it says what welcome to Grok 3 AI app. So let's go ahead and then change this one, test an API. So you can see everything is working. So the next step for us is to add another request that we can be able, or we can create a collection. So we can create a new collection over here and actually add, or we can simply add, let's just add another folder, and inside the folder we call it what user. So remember, if maybe our project has many collections, so different features, we can do that. So under the user, let's add a request known as what for creating user. So let's call it create user request. So over here we are going to actually make requests to /API/users. Go to this body over here and click on raw, and then actually add the body. We need to have a name, and we can specify the name as John Doe. And over here we also need to have an email. So email, and the email we can say John at what email, so maybe john@gmail.com. So you can see, let me zoom it. So you can see these are the two props that I've created inside the request body. So under the request over here, choose JSON type and then add this. So let's go ahead and issue this request to our server and see creating. So we have to change this to post. not get, in order to create a new record. So let's issue the request again. So you can see our user is created and returned over here. So let's go ahead and check our database and see. So if we refresh our database over here, we should see the new user is created successfully. So, and the next step for us over here is so we have closed everything and we are going to open the server again. So let's go ahead and create more users. Let's create another API over here for getting the users. Remember, we are testing our API, so let's add another request over here, and this one we say get users. So get users, let's paste this. If you make a get request to get users right, you should be able to return all the users in the database for us. So now if we navigate to our database over here and refresh, we should be able to see we have up to 4 users in the database, and all the users are actually returned. So you can see it over here, all our users are returned. That is, we have tested. Let's open this. We have tested creating. So let me create space in between them so that we can know. So we have actually tested creating user, and we have tested what getting users. So let's try to get a user by ID and see. So if we navigate over here and copy this user, so let's copy this request over here, and we can duplicate it. So let's click on duplicate it, and this one, not the whole this, so let's delete it. So we only want to duplicate this one over here. Not create the get, so let's duplicate it, and it should be get user. So we want to get a single user, and using this URL / the user ID. So let's go to our users and copy one of these ID. We want to get a single user, so let's paste the ID over there and hit enter. You can see we are able to get John. So if we change the ID to any other user from our database, we should be able to get the user. So over here, so you can see the user over here. We have actually tested getting a user, so let's also test deleting a user. So if you want to delete this user, so we can create another. Let's duplicate this request again, and over here we can say instead of get a user, we can actually name it delete user. So, and over here we paste, we actually want to delete one user, this user over here. So change this request type to delete request. So and hit enter. So you can see 204 no content, but let's actually try to get our user. So this user's ID end with fxw. So fxw, and if we make request, you can see this our request returns user not found. If we go back to our users, we had 4 users, so if you make the request now, only 3 users should be returned. So the next step over here, we have actually tested this delete user. The next step over here is to test updating a user. So in order to update a user, so let's duplicate this getting a user or creating a user. Let's duplicate this one. So duplicate, instead of create a user, we name it we actually call it update user. So we want to actually update this user over here. So in order to update the user, we need to provide body. So inside the body, we actually want to make use of raw and JSON. So open the body, we want to change the user's name to a name of our choice. So we can maybe change it to a new name, and if you want to also update the email of that user, we can actually say email, pass an email over here and say email, or we can say new name or new email at gmail.com. So we can hit the request. So you can see the user is actually updated, and then the response. Okay, wait. We are actually making a get request instead of a put request. So let's change it to put, and because we are specifying our API that it should be a put request. So over here, let's make a put. You can see the user is updated, and if we check our database over here, we can see that the username is updated to new name and new email. So this is how you can be able to use an AI to actually bootstrap your project, create a CRUD application from scratch. So you can see how fast it is and how everything seems perfect. So, and then we have actually different. It has refactored our code into controllers, routes, and then services. So our route is in charge of handling all our requests, all our request path, and the controller is actually in charge of taking the request and then calling our user service, and then the user service is in charge of actually interacting with our database. So and creating the user or performing our request as requested. So this. So you can see how Grok 3 or AI can serve as our coding assistant. So, and it saves us time of creating everything from scratch. Rather, we have to update it or to actually update it to our need. So there are a couple of things that we did not handle in this project, but I just wanted to demonstrate how we can be able to use an AI to bootstrap our project from scratch. There are things like maybe validating this input that are being passed. Maybe if you want to handle validation, we can handle the validation within these controllers over here before actually calling our service to create all these requests. So let's open our package.json file. Alright, so in this package.json file, we need to actually update some certain things. The first thing that we need to update over here is this our start command over here, and we need to change it to node this/server.js file, because this directory is where we are going to build our project and drop it. Over there, that is convert this compile this TS project into JS. So, and we also need to add another command known as build. So, and in the build, let's just specify what TSC, so TypeScript compiler. So when we run this command, we want it to go ahead, create a directory, an alt directory known as this directory, and then compile our project into this. So let's go ahead and then paste the command out and see. So we save everything, we come back over here, open new terminal, and then let's run the command. You can see before we run this command, we don't have any dist directory over here. So we are going to go ahead and run this command and see. So over here, let's go ahead and run this command, npm run build and see. So you can see when we run this command npm run build, it has created a directory known as this directory over here. It has compiled our project from TS to JS. So you can see it over here. So we can go ahead and run this project and see how it will work in production. So, and over here, let's go ahead and stop this one that is already working and go ahead. And if you want to run this project in production, we don't have to run this npm run dev. We have to run this command npm run start. So let's go ahead and try it out, npm run start and see. So, and our project is still up and running. If we navigate back to our postman over here, we can still get our users even if it's in production, and we can still get a particular user like this one. The user is not found. We can copy any of this ID over here and get the user. So you can see everything works both locally, and if we actually deploy this directory in production, everything will still work seamlessly. So this is how we can be able to actually use AI to bootstrap our project from scratch and yes, save a lot of time, speed our development, and do you think of using AI as your coding assistant? Does it make your development much more faster? Please like and comment on this video to help others like you. Thank you.